a great turnout on a beautiful day. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to our grand opening celebration of Portland's newest community attraction that will be a great educational resource and complement to OMSI, the Oregon Rail Heritage Center. You know, over the past couple of days, as the SP449 was being warmed up for this weekend, the Union Pacific Railroad crews would offer a friendly toot of the horn as they glide by. The 4449 would reply with a hearty whistle. What a wonderful meeting of historic and modern railroading. And that's what we're all about here. My name is Phil Selinger, and I've been serving since April as the Oregon Rail Heritage Foundation's Executive Director. The Oregon Rail Heritage Foundation is a non-profit, all-volunteer organization dedicated to preserving and operating Portland's 3 magnificent locomotives and the supporting passenger cars in a setting fitting of Oregon and the Pacific Northwest rail heritage. This wonderful, highly functional space, a working museum, evokes the appearance of the former Brooklyn Roundhouse at a location that is both accessible to the community and soon to be surrounded on all sides by modern railroading. It is a great achievement made possible with the hard work of volunteers, committed public and private partners, and hundreds of donations from foundations and individuals over a period of 10 years. So it's great to see you all here today. Before I go any further, I want to thank our grand opening event primary sponsor, Fred Meyer. Hey, Fred Meyer. And our supporting sponsors, Lawrence Broom Construction, who built this great facility, the Union Pacific Railroad, celebrating 150 years of nation building, and KLK Consulting, who provided valuable services to our project. I also want to take this time to thank our project development team, including Shields Oblitz Johnson, led by Rick Gustafson, Henneberry Eddy Architects, Lawrence Broom Construction, Railworks, and numerous subcontractors. A big welcome also to Operation Lifesaver and to the Benson High School Industrial Arts Program, with whom we hope to engage in developing some student projects and shared opportunities. To get us started with our short presentation, I'd like to introduce the honorary chair of our project steering committee, former and longest serving city commissioner, a civic leader, Mike Lindberg.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you very much. Well, you know, it all started 50 years ago with the first donation of these 3 steam locomotives. And at that point in time, hundreds of volunteers stepped up to do it really on their own to maintain these locomotives. There was a time a couple of years ago, I asked the question, well, how much time have these volunteers spent? Somebody said, well, we don't know, maybe we'll go back and take a look. I said, is it thousands of hours? And at that point in time, it was about 110,000 hours of volunteer time over about the last 35 to 40 years. Then just a few years ago, there came the time that these locomotives needed a new home. They were going to be homeless. This was no easy task. The magnitude of raising the money, the complex different variety of land use things and different agencies that were involved, I thought this is going to be a miracle if we pull this off. Well, it was a miracle. Now, a miracle could be defined as divine intervention. It also is defined as a wonderful occurrence against all the statistical odds. And that's what happened here. It was the Portland spirit that did it, the Portland way, the donors, the volunteers, the contractors, the architects, the political leadership. Now, before Bill Nato had died, he told me something one time, and he said, you know, Mike, do something grand with your life. And as I recall that, I realized that what really has been done in Portland is we've done dozens of grand things. And this project, really, I would say, it really kind of represents Grand Central, because what we have is a home for the steam locomotives that is at the center and in near proximity to OMSI, to the new Willamette bicycle pedestrian bridge, to the MAX line, to the streetcar, to the regular rail locomotive line, to all the bicycle trails. This is really going to be, I think, Grand Central of Portland. So with that, but none of these things can happen, frankly, even with all these different agencies and volunteers, unless you have someone in City Hall that's willing to step up, take the risk, and devote the time and energy to get this done. We had that person. We approached him a couple years ago, and he made this a very high priority. He's a commissioner who, when he was first elected, I thought in my mind as I listened to him speak, he could be one of the best and the brightest, one of the best that we've ever had. And then I saw him in action, and pulling together all the people that it would take to get this done, to convene them and lead them and make sure that the city and the city council was on board. And with that, I'd like to introduce my friend, a wonderful leader for this project, Commissioner Nick Fish.
Thank you, Mike. And I've invited two special guests to join me today, and you'll know why in a second. My son, Chapin, and his friend, Van. And I'll tell you why I've asked them to join me. First of all, to Mike Lindberg, who for 17 years set a standard for public service that each and every one of us who have followed try to adhere to. Would you join me in thanking Mike Lindberg for all that he has meant to our community? And before I go to my prepared remarks, I just want to acknowledge my wife. My wife Patricia is here today, and she asked when this historic steam locomotive was donated to the city of Portland, and he told her it was 1958. And she said, well, that's interesting. That's the year my husband Nick was born. And she paused and she looked at the SP 4449 and she looked at me, and without blinking she said, I think the train is held up a little better. So I want to acknowledge my bride of 22 years, Patricia Schechter. This morning we cut the ribbon on the new streetcar loop, and we did it in front of OMSI. Today, we cut the ribbon on a new center for our historic steam locomotives. So think about it. Today, we celebrate Portland's past and its future. We celebrate our past and our future, and this day would not be possible without a lot of heroes. And I get to thank them. First, the board of the Oregon Rail Heritage Foundation. And they are a wonderful group. And please, Doyle McCormick and Laurel Lyon, and would everyone raise their hand if you're a board member and accept our thanks. But this team also had generous donors, and no one was more generous than my favorite former opera star and our favorite donor, Gordon Zimmerman. Let's give our thanks to Gordon Zimmerman. You cannot do a project like this without a project manager that keeps everybody on task. Kim Knox, would you raise your hand and accept our thanks for everything that you've done? How about the volunteers who donated over 10,000 hours to make this possible? Can we give them a round of applause? There were two people at TriMet that literally moved mountains, and the land swap alone here was the most complicated thing I've ever been involved with. Let's thank Neil McFarland and Tuck Wilson for being stalwart supporters. Mike and I have had the privilege over the years to work with a lot of people who are wonderful public servants in city government, but the team we assembled here was unique. And so we have people here today from the Portland Bureau of Transportation, the Bureau of Development Services, and Portland Parks and Rec. They work hard every day for us. Can we acknowledge their service to our community? And our finance team. You know, if you drive around Portland, you come to streets named Failing. So it's good to have a Failing on your team. And someday there should be a very big street with a Lindberg on it. Let's thank Mike and Bill for all the work they did on our finance team. And to all of you who have shared this vision and brought your passion to make this day possible. Today, we celebrate a part of our past that is unique. We are the only city in America with 3 historic steam locomotives, and this one is the most famous train in America. But we didn't do it just to celebrate the past. We did it to give the future a leg up. And that's where my son comes in and his friend. Because your gift to the city is about the past and the future. And for that, the city of Portland says, thank you.
All right, thank you, Nick. The city and TriMet have been great partners in creating this new home for Portland's locomotives and has been among our staunchest supporters. Thank you for the leadership, Nick, on our behalf. This was a complex project to pull together, and TriMet was also key in making that happen. We look forward to having a MAX station at our doorstep, which together with the streetcar loop will provide terrific access to this new community resource. The Union Pacific Railroad, the BNSF Railroad, the Oregon Pacific Railroad, and Amtrak have also supported our efforts. And we look forward to our continuing relationship with our neighbor, the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. So, future plans for the Oregon Rail Heritage Center call for retiring our Phase 1 financing. We still owe some money to finish out this project, while at the same time, we want to develop our exhibits. Right now, the locomotives are our centerpiece, but we want to build some context around these locomotives. We then anticipate reinstallation of the Brooklyn Roundhouse turntable, right here where you all are standing. We also would like to see the creation of a second floor exhibit space. There's actually provision in this building to add a partial second floor, so there'll be lots of room for displays and the ability to look down on the locomotives even as they're being worked on. So you know this project could not have happened without the contributions of over 1,100 donors, including 13 foundations. And I was going to give a shout out, actually at this time, to Rick Michelson, who I know is here, who also donated for these front windows here. And he was one of our naming opportunity donors who actually donated to actually complete certain pieces of the engine house. So this is the work of volunteers who started work on the locomotives decades ago. The volunteers include our visionary and founder, Laurel Lyon. Thank you, Laurel. Again, our generous lead donor, Gordon Zimmerman. Thank you, donor. Thank you, Gordon. Our passionate project manager from Shields Oblis Johnson that Nick mentioned, Kim Knox. And our chief mechanical officer and SP 4449 engineer, Doyle McCormick. So it is thus fitting that our lead donor has graciously named this new home a Portland Steam Locomotives after the person who has put out so much blood, sweat, and tears into this project. Again, Doyle L. McCormick. So at this time, with the help of some of our younger rail fans from the Abernathy neighborhood, we therefore officially declare the Doyle L. McCormick Engine House at the Oregon Rail Heritage Center open for all to enjoy.